Guys, today I want to help you unlock some creativity, but also speed up your workflow by creating an infinite source of melodic ideas through one device. And that's inspired by nature's Bouncy Notes. What's up, gang, and welcome to another episode of Inspired By, a series where we look at the musical trends, past and present, to understand the techniques used so that you guys can make better music. My name's Will, and I make an assortment of music under the moniker Hushchild. I've been using my spare time to create some copyright-free music, and there'll be some more information on that in the coming weeks. But creating such a large assortment of music over a short space of time means that I need to be able to tap in to creativity 100% of the time, and I'm just not one of those producers. So I figured, is there a way that I could speed this up and just use one device? This way I'll learn the ins and outs of a new device, but I also think I'll be inspired to create something of my own along the way as well. And speaking of creating something of my own, I release all of my music with today's sponsor, and that's DistroKid. DistroKid make it so easy to release your music on all of the available platforms. That's Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and even social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. It's extremely easy to upload and ready your music for release with DistroKid, but when you're finished, not only do you have a handy hyperfollow tool generated that you can copy and paste using your Instagram bio, but they also generate you a YouTube artist page, and with their new tool Visi, you can also create music visuals that will react to your beat that you can upload to your socials as well. If you want to start releasing your music with DistroKid, then make sure that you use the link in the description below and you'll get a discount. But for now, let's crack on with the video. So before we get into what I created today, let me just show you around Bouncy Notes and how you can use it. On here, I just have the operator. And what you're going to want to do is download the Ableton pack Bouncy Notes, and then you'll find that in the new packs section. And then obviously just type in Bouncy Notes or go to that pack section, and in MIDI effects, you will find Bouncy Notes and just drop that on your instrument. So it gives you some instructions here that you can click and drag a wall and that it will play on transport, but let me walk you through it. So something I want to mention straight off the bat is that our through volume here is actually the volume of the note that you press, or later on if you have some MIDI parameters in there, you're going to hear that immediately. So if I drag that all the way down and I hit the note, you're not going to be able to hear that volume of it initially being hit. You only hear the bounce volume, which is on gain. So let me show you what all of this is here. Let's start on the left. Over on the left, we've got our different gravity settings. So mass, if we increase that, the ball is going to fall faster because it has more mass, and it's going to not bounce as high. And you can see it affects the size of the ball as well. Now with gravity, if we lower that, the ball is going to fall much slower, but it's going to bounce much higher. And the speed is, of course, how fast the ball falls as well. I think about the friction slider in the bottom left like stickiness. As I increase that, it reduces the gravity over time. Each time the ball bounces, it's kind of sticking to the note a little bit more. Let's increase that. And then fairly self-explanatory, voices in the top left indicates how many balls can exist at the same time in this display window. If I click auto, then balls are generated automatically when I press play on the transport bar. And this explains the intervals in which those balls come into existence. If I drag that down, more balls are going to come into existence more quickly. So at the minute, it becomes quite difficult to understand how you might use Bouncy Notes perhaps. And that's because it's kind of random. We've got a whole keyboard here that we can generate notes upon. So if we click this little keyboard function, we can actually generate a scale that it will play in as well. Let's set it to major pentatonic in C. And we're going to start it at C2. with a range of 24, so 2 octaves. Perhaps we don't want it to play as much in the higher octaves as we do in the lower octaves. So what we can use is this slider at the top. And if we slide that to the left, that means it's going to create some spin on the bores and favor the left side of the keyboard. And if we want to randomize the direction a little bit, we can increase this knob here. But again, quite random. We have our intervals in which the balls are falling, but if we want to quantize them, then we just go to this quantize slider, maybe set that to 16. If you want to have even more control over these notes, we can of course draw walls, which the description explained at the beginning. And for even more control, what we can do is we can turn auto off and drag in a MIDI progression and allow that to generate our notes. It's going to generate a starting position, and if I bring that through volume up, you'll hear the initial chord. And then because of kind of my spin depth and the settings that I've put there, maybe I favor the left side again. After that initial chord, the balls are going to move probably towards the left side a little bit more. So this is really the start of what got me thinking about just allowing the device to generate the musical intros for me. This is what I came up with. So I wanted to have some control in this piece. So I did generate 2 chords, just the D-7 here and then the B flat major. I knew that these 2 chords would go together really, really well. But what I did on the left side here was decrease the velocity range. So there's some randomization there with how much velocity is going to be played, which is of course going to affect the bouncy notes. Originally I kept the gain volume up, which started generating those bouncy notes. But having them play all of the time after every initial chord got a little bit tiresome, so I brought that gain all the way down and basically inverted these 2 settings on the next track over. Took the through volume all the way down and increased the gain a little bit. And then that way I could set a rule for when I wanted those notes to be heard. Another reason for this is I actually didn't like the white noise that could be heard on the initial chord playing on the random bouncy notes. So at this point I already had a little bit of control over what was going on. You can see here that I put it on send A with some Valhalla reverb. So that was really, really lovely, and I just wanted to control that a little bit further and just make it a little bit more mix friendly by adding the sidechain compressor, which is being sent by just this kick one shot here. So anytime those notes land on the downbeat, they're just deducted by the kick drum there. And then with the auto pan, it's just ever so slightly with 36%, just moving it from the left pan to the right pan. What I needed to do for lo-fi music was probably add some noise, some vinyl distortion, that kind of thing. That's what led me to creating this group. First of all, I got Serum, and I just used the paper bag noise emulator here, turned everything else off, and just allowed over a very small scale the notes to generate randomly. And I just used Serum's EQ to generate a little bit of a high pass so there wasn't any rumbling going on. Then to create the kind of white noise hiss, again I just used Serum's noise generator and set it to Atmos 18. That's just playing way in the back of our mix to kind of give that lo-fi familiarity there. So when it started getting really random, I added this kalimba and let these notes be generated at random, but they are playing over a major pentatonic scale in F. And similar to what I did with the duplicate chords here, I chose another instrument, added the auto pan again and the sidechain again, and then just changed the instrument sound from the one on the left, which was the kalimba, to a kind of more pad arpeggio sound. Very subtle on its own, but just a little bit of ear candy there. Now the biggest problem was creating a bass note, but we got there in the end. So again, using Serum, I've used Serum for every instrument. I made sure to set the chord to the major scale again, with the tonic note being F again, starting on F sharp 1 and with the range of 5. Then what I did is made sure it favored the left side. But I wanted to block off this 4th note because obviously I can dictate the range, but I can't black out a certain note for it not to play. So I just drew a wall over there, and you can see that I've duplicated that wall a couple of times because sometimes the balls were getting stuck underneath the note, so I'd have this kind of feedback loop of the same note which I didn't want played. I also didn't want the notes to really bounce off this wall, hit this note, and then go over to the lower side. So if they land on this note, for the most part they stay on this note. If they bounce over here, generally they stay over this side. It gave me a little bit more control over what the bass was playing, but kept it in the key of the chords and the arpeggios and the randomness that was going on. As I'm playing this, I can remember to hold shift and down, and that's going to change the octave. So if I wanted to change the bass notes as they were performing as well, hold that shift. I've already selected the start point, and then press down. I'm down an octave. Let's go up 2 octaves. And then back down 2 octaves. And of course, if I'm hitting record, it's going to record those changes in as well. As always, in Inspired by fashion, once I did these things and I limited myself and I set myself a rule for creating music, suddenly I was really inspired, and I kind of found 3 different ways that I could go with this. If I was creating music this way and still wanted to have my own input in the arrangement of the music and the narrative that took place, I could hit the record button and then just record the arrangement as I unmuted and affected things on the fly. The other way that I could go about this, and I genuinely wasted about half an hour's time just playing with this, I was having so much fun, was I could add like a rack, or if you have an SP404, you could run it through an SP404 or any kind of device really. I of course don't, so I was using my lo-fi rack, which you guys can grab from my Patreon, patreon.com/thewillhatton. And I just throw that on the master, and then I can have some fun with this as well. Let's turn on the wobble. So much fun, and again I could record that into the arrangement. The final way that I found that you could do this, if I just turn off the drum track for a second, would be to resample all of this into a new track. So I'm going to choose an audio track, and I'm going to choose the resampling function and set that to record arm, and then just play all of this together, recording into this new track. So at that point, what I can do is I can press Shift, Command and T to create a new MIDI track. And in that MIDI track, if I double click the top of it, I could drag that layer. And what that's going to do is create a sample device for me. I'm going to set that to slice. And then of course I can choose slice by and choose maybe the beats or the regions. And here I can select my samples and then record that with the beat that I have. So I thought this method was really beneficial because if you haven't set your scale up right, obviously those bouncy notes are kind of random. They might play some notes that are duds in there that you don't want to include. If you chop your audio up as samples, not only can you control an element of that, but you can also add some of your playing style in there, make it sound more sampled, and then continue that inspiration of adding effects and different ways that you can manipulate your audio. The possibilities are kind of endless with this, and I'm really excited to try out Bouncy Notes more, not only to save myself time, but it really does inspire some creativity once you understand how the device works. So there we have it, guys. When you're feeling like you're running a little bit low on creative juices, why not try this method of using the Bouncy Notes device to generate, just some random melodies and then see how you'll use it in your own music. I think it's a really fun method of going about creating intros to your music or just generate whole ideas. And I genuinely get carried away with, the kind of problem solving that comes with it. And then once you do have something, you're like, wow, I actually would have never thought of that on my own, because you're kind of stuck in that muscle memory of the way that you normally go about creating in the DAW. Do let me know in the comments if you use a method that's similar to this, or if you create any limitations to spark new creativity. I would absolutely love to know. As always, if you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please do hit that like and subscribe button because it greatly helps out the channel. Make sure you hit that bell icon so you get notified when a new video goes live. And as always, if you want to see anything that I've mentioned in this video or previous, whether it be my Patreon, the Discord, or how you can get involved in future videos, that information is in the description below. For now, guys, I thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.